What are you doing? I'm talking. Do you have something to contribute? Are you leaving? Bye. Something's got his attention. Hey everybody, Crafting Journey here, that Journey Chick on Instagram, and the leftovers on my second YouTube channel. The link to that is down in the description. That's the channel where I tell you about my business, where I resell undervalued items on eBay and now Mercari for a profit. So check that out. And I have a new Facebook business page. The link to that is down in the description. If you follow me there, you don't have to go to the various stores. I'll show you on Facebook when I have a new listing. I'll try to get what you can do is when you're in those other programs, you can share that to your business Facebook page. So I'm working on the painting, the Black Lab. I started a hat. Yes, we're working on the hat today. This will be for sale in my store once I finish it. Yes. Look at the colors on that. Is it gorgeous? Gorgeous. I know. I'm always thinking, oh, I want that. But now I'm going to sell it. So I have a lot to get to today. Oh my goodness. This is a busy day, and I may even be going live at some point today. There's going to be a hearing in the Brooks case. Now, as you recall, Darrell Brooks, he was found guilty on all charges associated with driving his SUV through the Waukesha Christmas parade. Now, I'm curious if they're going to have another parade this year. You know, it just crossed my mind. Anyway, so he will be appearing in court. There is a hearing, not for sentencing, but to set a sentencing date. So each side has to come to the hearing today with who they're, an estimation of time that they need for the various people that want to speak. Because there's a lot of victims in this case. So I'm sure they've been working since Friday with victims advocates to find out who wants to speak and who doesn't, from all these various families, and Darrell as well. He may have people from out of town. Now, Mama said she's not going to be there, but you never know. She may change her mind. So we'll see. The other thing that is happening today is there is going to be a press conference in the Delphi murder cases. Now, I don't know if I ever covered the Delphi murder cases, but let me just tell you a little bit about the Delphi murder cases. This happened back in February of 2017. And they finally made an arrest last week. And there's a press conference this morning to talk about this arrest. Now, supposedly this is a suspect. This is the guy, because there have been other arrests before, and it has not turned out to be the guy. But Libby German, who was 14 at the time, and Abigail Williams, who was 13 at the time, best friends. They were hanging out at Libby's house the night before, painting, watching movies, just doing what girls do. That was a Sunday night. They did not have school on Monday morning. It was a day off from school. So their father that morning made them banana pancakes for breakfast. And then Libby asked her sister, hey, can you drop us off at the trails? Now there was these trails, this is a little town in just northwest of Indianapolis. It's called Delphi. Not very big at all, and considered before this to be a very, very safe place to live. And there's famous for these trails. People like to go hiking on these trails. And there's this old abandoned railroad bridge, which is probably very dangerous, but people go out there to take pictures and walk the trail. So she had asked her sister, can you take us out there? So her sister said, yeah, she finally said, at first she said no, because she had plans, with her boyfriend. Her sister at the time was 17. And she finally said, okay, if you can find a ride home, I will drop you off there. So she goes and she drops them off at, it's called the Moen High Bridge or Moen High Trails. So she drops them off about 1:35 in the afternoon. She drops off Libby and Abby, and they've got their phones and they're doing their Snapchat. And at 2:07, Libby actually posted a picture of Abby on the bridge. And it's also stored in Abby's phone is a video that was taken right about that same time, stored into the Snapchat. Some people also refer to these as the Snapchat murders. So there's this video, this grainy video of this guy walking towards the two girls on the bridge, and you can hear him say, down the hill. You cannot see his face very well at all. He's got a hat on, a jacket, very difficult to identify because, it's been 5 years and nobody's been able to identify this guy. But it's thought that that is the suspect. That's the man that murdered these two girls. So around 3:30, that was when they had set up for Libby's dad to come pick them up. He shows up at 3:30. They are nowhere to be found. He cannot find them. So he starts making phone calls. Everybody heads out to the trails. Libby's older sister, she was supposed to go to work. She calls work and says, no, I got to go look for my sister. They get out there. They're looking everywhere where they think they might be because they frequented this place a lot. And her sister had some ideas of, where they might be. And they really just thought, well, maybe they got lost or, maybe they were hurt or something. But they looked and looked. And then finally they said, we've got to call the police. So they get the police. Now the police are searching and there's search parties going on. And this goes on. And finally around midnight, the police call everything off. They're like, it's too dark. We'll start fresh in the morning. So the next morning, Valentine's Day, they start searching again. And they've got drones going out and they've got dogs and a dive team because there's a lake there. And they're, eventually they find a shoe associated with one of the girls. And then they do find the bodies down a hill near a body of water. And it's never been disclosed how these two young girls died. The autopsies were sealed, but they were ruled homicides. So maybe we'll get a little bit more information this morning during this press conference. So there has been an arrest 5 years later, and we'll hear about it this morning at the press conference. And I might add, there's additional video that was taken on Libby's phone that's never been disclosed to the public, and other information from what I understand. So that will all come out if there's ever a trial, and I will cover it for sure. Then I wanted to update you guys on the Chad and Lori Daybell case. Yes, will it ever go to trial? Well, as you guys know, it was set for January. I need my coffee. It's cold now, but it was set for January. So recently the defense moved for a continuance. Now we know that's Chad Daybell's defense. Lori Daybell has been ruled that she's not competent right now to stand trial. So she's in a mental facility until she becomes competent to stand trial. And the prosecution is pretty adamant that they want these cases tried together. They've already moved this case to a different venue, and in order for them to try this case, they have to reserve like a 1 month period of time at this other courthouse, which, you know, that who also has their own stuff going on. So this was a concern of the judges because they had, you know, carved out this 4-week period of time in January to be in this other courthouse, and now they have to cancel it. Well, Chad moved for a continuance, citing their defense, saying that there's additional things that they're waiting for, that if they have to go to trial, they will, but they would prefer a continuance so that they have a chance to properly review all of the incoming evidence. And so the judge reserved ruling on it. The prosecution did not object to this motion to continue. They said, you know, we're not going to object to it because they want a chance for Lori to become competent again, and they could try them both together. It's going to be very, very expensive for the prosecution if they have to try these things separately. That means they have to pay all their experts twice. They have to reserve that courthouse twice. It would be a nightmare. And I understand that. And a real burden on the taxpayers of that small area in Idaho. Yeah. And we are, as you know, there are no cameras going to be in the courtroom. So the judge issued his ruling. The hearing was a week or so ago. But the judge, he likes to come out with these rulings on late Fridays. So Friday afternoon, the judge comes out with his ruling, and he rules that the case will be continued. So Lord knows when, you know, it's going to be 4 or 5 months before they get together to get another trial date. And then they have to reserve it in that other courthouse in a different venue. And, you know, we're probably looking at another year away, 2024. Before we ever see any of the Daybells go to trial. Yeah. Interesting, huh? Okay. Let's talk about George Wagner. George is on trial for killing the murders of 8 members of the Roden family. Now, this... his brother Jake has already pled guilty to the murders, and it was actually the trigger man on most, if not all, of the murders, but he took the witness stand most of last week. He opted not to be on camera, so we didn't get to see any of that. They finished up his cross-examination on Friday, and the defense actually got him to admit that his memory was not that good, that he had some memory issues, that he said it's like pieces of a puzzle, you know, like you're trying to put things together and sometimes there's extra pieces. I don't know what he meant by that. But he does remember the murders. Okay. I thought that was interesting. So this morning they are putting on some more experts, weapons experts, to follow up some of what Jake said regarding the weapons that were used at the crime scene. Now, although his testimony really never pinpointed George as having murdered or pulled the trigger for any of these murders, he did say George was present. He was hiding in that truck with him when they arrived at Chris and Gary's home. That was the first crime scene. He got out from where he was hiding when the truck stopped. They hid under the truck with their rifles. George was supposed to pull the trigger when Chris came out of the house with their father, Billy. He froze. He didn't do it. Chris goes back in the house, and Jake is the one that starts pulling the trigger. It was a trailer, so he's shooting through the trailer and hits Chris, 9 times in the head. Pretty damn good shot. Also hits Gary 3 times. So, and then they move on to the rest of the crime scenes. And so we know for sure George was at that crime scene. And he does say that he was at all of the rest of the crime scenes as well. But he doesn't say that he pulled the trigger, so. Now, in exchange for Jake's testimony, the prosecution was supposed to take the death penalty off the table for George. Now, I don't know if that's happened or not. I don't know if what he testified to the prosecution believes is sufficient for them to take the death penalty off the table. I don't know. Angela is expected to testify probably Wednesday. She will likely opt out as well, meaning she will not be allowed, no one will be allowed to film her, which is a shame because that would be very entertaining. And I'd love to hear what she has to say about how she planned this murder. This is the mother of George and Jake, the matriarch of the family. This is a very, very tight-knit family, planned everything together, commingled all their funds, and the father taught the sons how to steal cars, how to steal gas, like this little mini criminal enterprise they had going there. Growing pot, farming, they still had a regular farm. In fact, when George and Jake got back from the murders, Jake goes in the house. George had to go feed the animals. Yep, because, the show must go on. The farm must go on. Crazy. Well, did I startle you? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So, let's talk about Murdaugh Monday. Yeah, I haven't done a Murdaugh Monday in a few weeks, have I? I'm going to update you on what's going on with the Alex Murdaugh sagas. This is a family. The Murdaugh family is out of South Carolina. If you're new to the channel, I have a whole series of Murdaugh information videos where I talk about everything that has gone on associated with this family, including the death of Stephen Smith, the boat crash involving Paul, who was driving drunk, and one of the people in the boat was ejected and killed, Mallory Beach. So there's a lot of litigation out of that. What else? Paul and Maggie were murdered, just a few days before Paul was supposed to be appearing in court on the boat crash. And then one of the Murdaugh housekeeper slips and falls. Supposedly the Murdaugh dogs swept her off her feet, sustains this horrendous head injury, and dies 3 weeks later. And so this is when they commit this fraud. Alec Murdaugh, who's an attorney, his whole family, he's from multi-generations of attorneys in his family in this Hampton County, South Carolina, where his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, they were all solicitors in this town, which is equivalent to being like the state attorney, I guess, or the district attorney. They call them solicitors. Now, Alec Murdaugh was not a solicitor, but he had ties to the solicitor office. He had a badge, and he would come in and assist with cases if he was needed, because putting the Murdaugh name behind a case pulled a lot of weight and money. What are you doing? I'm talking. Do you have something to contribute? Are you leaving? Bye. Something's got his attention. I don't know what. What is it? You want help getting down? I can help you. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff down here where he was getting ready to jump, and I don't want him landing on it. He'll be back. Let me move his bed out of the way in case he comes back. He was a little too close. So, okay, where was I? Oh, the Murdaugh man. Okay, so there are 3 trials coming up. And the first one is the trial of Russell Laffitte. That is the federal trial, and that is set for January. Probably will get continued because now Russell Laffitte is the bank president, Palmetto State Bank president. Now, this is such a convoluted story. When the housekeeper fell and passed away, Alec Murdaugh went to her funeral, told the family, listen, I want you to sue me. My homeowner's policy will cover this. I will tell them I'm liable, that the dogs took, her feet out from under her, and you'll get a big paycheck. They're like, oh, where do we sign up? So he sends them to his friend, Corey, to sign up. So Corey's representing him. Alex arranges for a settlement from these insurance company. Don't ask me how they would do it. It's a good old boy thing. He arranges for this multi-million-dollar setup, but tells Corey to send the check to him personally, Alec, the defendant, and he will set up an annuity with this Forge Bank. So Forge is a legitimate company that does do annuities, but Alex had no association with them, or at least not on this occasion. He goes to a different bank and opens an account, calling it Forge, deposits the money, and then absconds with all the money. And then as this gets discovered, it comes out that he's done this many, many times. Russell Laffitte, where does he come in? He was the bank president, Palmetto State Bank. When he got his friend Corey to represent the family, he told the family, because she had two boys, and he told the two boys, this is going to get really complicated. I think we need to set up a conservator, someone to help you manage the money and the settlement, who was Russell Laffitte, the president of this bank. And this was something that he and Russell Laffitte would do often, apparently, in other cases. And the plaintiffs were not getting all of their money. He would talk the families into setting Russell Laffitte up as conservator, who would replace the family as the plaintiff. So the money would go to Russell instead of the family, and Russell would be supposedly holding this money in trust for the family, and they would have to ask permission from Russell if they wanted some of the money, and it was just crazy. So Russell is set up. He's been charged federally for this. And he is saying that this is a much broader conspiracy than just myself and Alec, and apparently has tapes to prove it. Tapes of board meetings of the bank, tapes of stuff that would go on at the law firm, PMPED, where Alec Murdaugh worked. It was the Murdaugh family law firm. And so once those tapes are reviewed, we could discover that this is way huger than we ever thought. That this conspiracy that probably involves more members of the law firm, probably involves many people at the bank. Because someone had to know about this. They couldn't have been doing this unfettered for all these years. So that's lawsuit, or the first case. There's another case, the boat crash case, that's scheduled for January 9th. Now, the Mallory Beach's family in civil court sued the Murdaugh family, Alec and his brother, the living brother, Buster Murdaugh, because they're the ones with all the money now, because Paul and Maggie are dead. So they sued the Murdaugh family. They also sued the bar that sold Paul and his friend drinks the night of the boat crash, and additionally sued the convenience store where Paul bought liquor that night. Now the bar has already settled, so any judgment against the Murdaughs and the convenience store will be offset by that prior settlement. But that case is scheduled for January 9th. I don't know if it will be televised or not, but it certainly should be interesting. And then there's a third case, which is that's the murder of Maggie and Paul, which interestingly, because Alec asked for a speedy trial, is set for January 23rd. So this is the murders of Maggie and Paul, the homicide. And there's so much that we don't know that I just can't even imagine this thing is going to trial in January. I just think that's way too soon. It's just they can't possibly be ready, but maybe they will be ready. I don't know. So, yeah, Paul is, I'm getting all these names confused. Alec is on trial for the murder of his wife and son. The night of the murders, what we do know is that they're thinking that his best friend, Daryl Eddie Smith, may have participated with him in the murders, because we know Maggie and Paul were shot with 2 different weapons. And they say that this Eddie Smith guy actually failed a polygraph test, indicating that he was being deceptive about the murders. Now, polygraphs are not admissible in courts, but it does say something about maybe that he's involved. I think we'll find that out soon enough. But we do have a timeline for the murders. At 8:44, they're all out at the hunting lodge. This is their hunting home, and they called it Moselle. Paul's there, Maggie's there, Alec's there. Everybody's happy. They're having a good time. But Alex leaves at 9:06 p.m. and heads to Almeida, where his parents live. And his father actually was hospitalized that night and passed away probably in days later. But that's a 20-minute drive to Almeida, and then a 20-minute drive back. And he's back at Moselle at 10:07. So that leaves him only like 30-minute period of time where he would have visited his mom and father and taken him to the hospital. But supposedly there is an eyewitness that's not being named that saw Alec during that period of time going behind his parents' home, carrying something to the backyard. So we'll find more about that as this case progresses. But, we know at 10:07 he's back at Moselle because he calls 911 and then says, my wife and son have been shot. And he's like, ooh, boo-hooing on the phone. Interesting, very interesting cases. This Murdaugh family is so entwined with so many criminal acts right now. I mean, even without the cases that I've just described, Alex is facing 90 individual counts or acts of criminal activity. 90. Like, the man's never going to get out of jail. He's in jail right now with no bond, I think. Or maybe he did bond out. I don't know. Because he comes to the hearings in plain clothes. Things that make you go, Anyway, that's the Murdaugh family saga. Yeah, if you want to get updated on that, just, I will try to link the playlist for the Murdaugh family murders for you. I gotta straighten these drills out. How did they all get discombobulated like that? I don't know. Oh, my coffee pot just went off. I gotta go get it while it's hot. Okay. I fixed them. All right. Hat. Working on the hat. Guys, that is the show for today. How far are we in? Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope I do get to go live for either the press conference. I'd like to do that live. That's expected to be in about an hour or so. That's on the Delphi murders. And if the hearing is covered, I'd like to cover that as well, unless they're both at the same time. I won't be able to, but I will certainly have footage of both of those things for you tomorrow. So guys, have a great Monday. I'll see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Have a wonderful day. Bye.